Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Falcons, the Men of North Catholic. And I'm joined by.
Hello, all. It's Bernie Haney, class of 1978.
Bernie. How are you, my friend?
Good, Johnny. How are you?
Dude, are you ready to take a stroll down memory lane?
I am. There's a lot of memories.
Let's go back in time to 1974, entering Northeast Catholic High School.
It was interesting. I went to Holy Name, and Holy Name, when we were there, seemed like such a big building, and then we got to North, and it was like cavernous. One of the things that we talked about a lot was how we were going to go and we were going to meet a bunch of guys from all over the Northeast that we didn't know, and maybe by the time we were juniors or seniors, we would like nod our heads on the way by a Holy Name guy because we had made all new friends. Well, the administration at North that year decided to change that. So first day we walked in the North, our homeroom, and Father Kilty was our homeroom moderator. Our homeroom was freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Every single person in my homeroom was from Holy Name. So when I walked into the homeroom, I knew everybody in there. And I thought, wow, I'm like a little freshman and I got 8 seniors in the homeroom. And, obviously they were real happy about having a room full of freshmen and sophomores. And there were more of us than there were of them. But it lasted for a year. And then the administration decided maybe that wasn't the best idea in the world. And the following year, we went back to, having homerooms within our own class. But it was really weird that, how do you meet somebody when everybody in your room is from your parish? So that was how it started.
Yes. Well, and you said the year after that, you got to finally meet guys that you never met before. And
well, no, I mean, we met guys in class and in lunch, and we met a lot of people. And speaking of, like, and I know we'll get into this later, but it was funny because for 4 years at North, the teachers called my lunch table the United Nations because it was a big table. So there were 8 of us at the table. There was 3 white guys, 3 Hispanic guys, and 2 white guys who lived in the Hispanic neighborhood. And we held that lunch table together for all 4 years. I mean, we literally had to go to guidance and change schedules so that we could all end up at the same lunch.
Wow.
But that was really a fun group. And those guys are my friends today.
So while we're on the topic of lunch and cafeteria, what was it like back then, Bern, in 74? How was the food? Like, did you guys listen to music? Tell us what it was about back then.
We started out with a jukebox, and then it went to canned music. But we had music all the time, and it was pretty much, hard rock music. The best part of lunch every day was the donuts in the morning. I have no idea what year they started making them, but whatever year they started making them, it was the best decision they ever made because they lasted through you guys in the 90s. And so, and in the donuts, we had vanilla, chocolate, and cinnamon sugar donuts that were, they were hot every morning. They were just off the hook. Lunch was pretty much pizza, burgers, cheese fries. Everything was kind of dried up and wrinkled, and it was what it was. And so we a lot of us brought lunch because most of the food was inedible. But cheese fries were always good. And before you ask, I didn't go near the damn ketchup or the mustard
either. I want from calling it I forget what I called it before, but now I'm just going to call it the mystery ketchup.
The mystery ketchup. Oh man, and it was a mystery too.
So
Actually,
Vern,
I always thought the ketchup and the mustard would have been a good science project
yeah.
because
Well, Chef Burger King did
there was a lot of stuff going on in there.
it. So let's talk about some teachers and oblates. I mean, uh, North Catholic is known for some incredible teachers and oblates, and some from when I see a lot of interviews I'm doing are still friends today. What teacher or both or oblates both stood out to you?
John, it's interesting because I guess I was kind of lucky and unlucky, but from the day that I got to North till the day that I got out of North, my parents swore to God that they were going to have to pay tuition and rent because I used to leave for school at like 6:30 in the morning, and I didn't get home till 8:30 every night. There was a group of us that were together that were pretty much involved in everything. And we used to hang out in Father Gondek's room at 109 on the first floor. Um, and for a long time, everybody said, "Oh, there's some guys. They're Al's pals." And but we were involved in everything. We were involved in the dances. We were involved in CSC. We were involved in. I spent 3 years on the Model UN debate team. And I know that, we've gone back and forth a lot on Facebook about Father Hurley. Unfortunately for my class, Father Hurley was gone. So Rich Papiro, who was a world cultures teacher, was our Model UN moderator. And funny, the first trip we ever took in Model UN in my freshman year, we went to Kennedy High School in Bethpage, Long Island. And there's this bridge in New York called the Verrazano Narrows, where you're not allowed to have any trucks. And Rich took the school bus on the Verrazano Narrows, and we got stopped by the New York State Police, and it was all we could do to save him from getting cuffed and taken away. It was a bit of an adventure, and so from freshman year all the way through senior year, I was in the school all the time. Whatever was going on and whatever we needed to do, we did. So there was a group of probably about 12 to 15 of us. And ironically, 8 of us, senior year, 8 of us were voted by our class as the class of 78 men of the year. So that was a great honor for all 8 of us. We did a ton of stuff in the 4 years that we were there, and I would never trade it for all the money in the world.
You mentioned you did a Model UN. What other sports or clubs did you wind up getting involved in?
We really didn't get involved individually. Well, I did do Model UN, which was a lot of work because we had to study constantly because you were representing a country and you had to represent that country. Because we were North Catholic and we were Model UN world champions for eons, we usually ended up with an African country, and we always ended up with the United States in the Security Council. My first debate, I was in the health committee as the ambassador from Cameroon in Africa. So, the kid from Fishtown has to spend about 3 weeks studying all of the policies of Cameroon in Africa. And that was interesting. But we never really got involved in specifically other clubs, but we got involved in everything. So if a club was doing something, there was a bunch of our group involved in it too, helping them out. We did a ton of things with CSC and with the different clubs in the school that we weren't actually part of, but we were just there to help them out with whatever we need. We were the dance committee, we were the prom committee, we were the yearbook committee. We got involved pretty much in whatever was happening.
You just mentioned prom, which is one of the topics I have. Your senior prom. Let's see.
Yes.
Who was your date? What would you wear? What was the style? What did you go in?
It 70s were interesting. Um, my date was actually the sister of one of the guys in my class. The prom was, I believe, at the Sheridan downtown. Um, and I think, and I may be lying, but I think if I remember that we wore the old big lapel tuxedos with the frilly shirts and the bow tie that was about that big, and it was very 70s. I remember my soft hop. I literally wore an orange suit because it was the 70s, and so it was all disco all the time, and you can pretty much wear my literally my shoes matched my suit. It was somewhere. I have a picture of that was scary as hell.
So it was kind of like wearing let's see, a 1990s Run DMC Adidas outfit, all one color.
Yeah, it was like it was like John Revolting.
Wow.
I mean, it was Saturday Night Fever. It was our music was disco. The one thing I will say about our senior prom is we had a hell of a time picking a theme for our senior prom. So we did all the usual things, Nights of White Satin and Stairway to Heaven, and somehow, some way, we were convinced to pick Come Sail Away by Styx. Now, if you're in a senior prom and Come Sail Away is a good opportunity to get nice and close and have a nice little slow dance. And about the fifth bar of the song, it goes to way up tempo. And so, there's no get close in that song. So, but it was a weird theme, but for some odd reason it worked.
Proms are always a good time, always a good memory.
Oh yeah.
Let's bring up something that maybe isn't such a great memory, something a fond memory. Justice Under God, otherwise known as Jug. Were you a participant?
I have a great story about that. I was a participant I will say I was a participant. There is a paper in the discipline office that said that I had 20 days of jug. And I had 20 days consecutively. Now, the most wonderful, as I used to call him, mein Frere, Ed Butler, who was our world cultures teacher. And John, if you remember the school, we were in room 100, and back in our days, Jug was in 101. So anytime Ed Butler sent somebody to Jug, he would walk up to the blackboard and he would draw a big arrow on the blackboard, and then he'd look at you and go, Juggy Wuggy. And Butler was a strange dude to begin with. But so anyway, so my friend Ray Wynn, who I went all through school with, was still a great friend today. The same day, he called Ed Butler a jail, and literally called him a jerk off. And Butler drew the arrow on the board and said Jug. So I'm sitting there and I'm reading about 14 pages of ethnic jokes, Polish jokes, Jewish jokes, Italian jokes, Irish jokes. And I'm reading them. And Butler says to me, Haney, what are you reading? I said, this paper. He said, what's on it? I said, words.
Well, you're being honest.
He said, oh, you're funny. 10 days. I said, Mr. Butler, he just called you a jerk off and got 1 day. I'm reading a paper and I get 10. No, you didn't. You got 20. So the great part about junk back then was Mr. Martin, God rest his soul, who was one of our typing teachers, was the jug monitor. So I walked into Jugs the first day and he said to me, "What are you doing here?" And I told him this story, cracked up laughing. Every day I had to go into the 101, empty the trash can, and then go back to do what I was doing. So I spent 20 days emptying the trash can in 101, and then I walked down the hall to 109 to do whatever was going on that day. So I didn't really have 20 days of jug. I had no days of jug, but the slip says I had 20. So I'll take ownership of those 20.
Wow. So you mentioned we talked a little bit about when you first went to school and how they wanted to set up your guys' homerooms. But do you actually remember your first day at North Catholic?
I do. Yeah, I really do. Back then, and it's interesting to me because, as you know, I have two brothers and I have my nephew that were all there. My brother Bill graduated 10 years after me. So he graduated in 88. And and I look at the difference of what North was when I was there in the early 70s and what it was in the 80s, it was a whole different place. So what happened in our days, the only people in the building on the first day were the freshmen. So we would go into the auditorium, and essentially it was, we didn't have the Grand Wizard. We had Joe Toner, who was our principal, and, he'd make a speech, and then Freddie Doherty made a speech. And I think Fitzy was there because Fitzy was always there. And then the object of the day was to make your way around the building without getting lost. So there were a lot of upperclassmen in the building to basically show you how to get to the pool over the bridge, and to show you how to get from the third floor in the old building to the third floor in the new building, and you go down to the second floor and walk across a bridge to that other house over there. And so a lot of my classmates made it into the faculty house on that first day. And there was an old brother that was right sitting inside the door on the other side of the bridge, and he would say, "Oh, what are you doing here?" "Oh, they told me I had to come this way." He said, "Yeah, this is your first day, dumbass. Don't ever do it again." And then everybody walked back over the bridge. So after about a half hour of people walking over the bridge, it was pretty obvious you weren't allowed to do that. But that was my first day. I mean, it was probably about 2 or 3 hours. We found our lockers. We went to our homeroom, and that day it was only freshmen, so we didn't know who else was in there. I did know that everybody in my homeroom was from Holy Name, which was kind of weird. But yeah, that was our first day.
North Catholic is infamous for a lot of things. One of the things I haven't mentioned in some of my interviews, I want to mention today. North had designated upstairs, and then another set were designated as the downsteps. When did that take place? Was that involved? Was that in your area, the upsteps and the downsteps?
Yeah, John, and I'll tell you the God's honest truth. The reason that the up steps and the down steps were set up the way they were was because of some of those guys that you've already interviewed from the 40s, from the 50s, they had classes of 700-800 kids in a freshman class. So if you had people going up and down the same stairways, it was, first of all, it was unruly. Second of all, it was very unsafe.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be hard to you're going by somebody going the wrong way to just give them a little nap and they're going the other way. I mean, so yeah, they were set up that way because it was the only way to safely have traffic move. And when you guys were there, that really wasn't required. But I had I had 600, and I'm guessing it was a long time ago, We had 600, I'm lying again. We had 740 guys the first day that we walked in the North. And the second marking period of sophomore year, about 200 of them left. And they didn't leave by volunteering to go. Right after the report cards hit, they were slowly but surely pulling guys out of classes all day long. And they were basically expelled. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but if you weren't keeping up with your grades, if you were trouble, if you were always in trouble, you know, you left, you were in North today and in Frankfurt or Mass Bomb the next day. And they always did it on a Friday. So, amazingly that almost 200 guys all left the building in one day. I had some really, really good friends that I went to school with them on Friday, and Monday they weren't there.
That's crazy.
And that was how it had to be. I mean, we graduated 575. So we graduated a nice sized class, but we should have been 150 more probably.
Wow. You mentioned you had some brother, you said it was younger than, well, you had John who was younger than you. You had some nephews that all went to North Catholic. You can see you're wearing your North Catholic get up gear going on here.
Yeah, so, I'm wearing this shirt. This was a gift from my brother John's, my nephew. Basically, it says it's the final freshman class at North, and everything on Zoom is backwards, so I'm pulling the wrong side. But it basically says final freshman, and then it says North Catholic class of 2012.
Wow.
And the North Catholic class of 2012, graduated from Judge, graduated from Roman. There was no North. So, I just wanted, this is almost 40 years that I'm out that, he graduates or he should have graduated. And it was sad. It was very sad.
Well, somebody walks up to you, or you got stuff in your North Catholic here in your house, and they always look at their stuff and they say to you, whether it's Pop or Bernie or Uncle Bern, so what's all this North Catholic stuff? What was North Catholic to you? How do you explain it?
North Catholic to me in that period of my life is what made me what I am today. I mean, I made so many lifelong friends. I had some of the best teachers on the planet. I mean, you interviewed Barry Brodzinski the other day. His brother Iggy was a basketball player at North that played on that 68 team, but he came back. He was also a teacher. And I had Iggy Brodzinski all 4 years at North. I had Bob Fitzsimmons all 4 years at North. That kind of stuff never happened. And it just so happened that, I don't know whether it was the same for you guys, but freshman year, they essentially told you where you were going, when you were going. And then sophomore year, they let you pick a couple things. And then junior year, you pick a couple more. And then senior year, you pretty much pick your whole schedule. So I did a lot of computer stuff, and Iggy taught that. So I got to. And believe me when I tell you, I mean, the computers back then were as big as my kitchen table. And, you had to type in the program, and then the program would run, and you wouldn't watch it on the screen. It would print out on a piece of paper. I mean, it was the very beginning, but I enjoyed that immensely. And just the development of who I am and how I became what I am, that foundation was certainly set by my parents, by my siblings, by my family, and then just reinforced in my days at North. I mean, it was a great place to be, and the atmosphere was phenomenal. And I was so involved in so much that it became my second home. It truly did.
With that being said, what would have been your fondest memory of North Catholic? in the years you went to school?
In the years that I went to, I guess the North Frankfurt game in 77, which would have been my senior year. It was the first year in a while we had a prom queen and her court. And I had to put the tuxedo on and go to Temple Stadium at about 30-degree weather in a tuxedo and escort the first runner-up to the court. And basically, we all spent the day together, and it was really a surreal moment to make that the last thing that we did at North. And it was just such a fun day. And of course, my graduation and being chosen by my classmates as one of 8 of 576 to wear that title of Men of the Year. And because of that, my dumb ass got to sit up on the stage at Convention Hall. And, so that was a great moment. And I had a lot of moments at North after I left. I mean, it wasn't about those 4 years. It just went on and on and on.
Let's talk about that, because this was the save the best for last moment. You and I spoke last night after my interview with Jim Schulteis, and the important part about these stories, that number one, the reason why I'm doing this documentary, and two, to get all these Falcons involved, is like we spoke last night. Each story is kind of like a puzzle; it interlocks. And so,
absolutely.
Am I right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You actually had you again. We spoke last night in reference specifically to Jim Schulteis's his memories of North Catholic. Mm-hmm. Let's explain to everybody in 1988 when North Catholic played Roman, who were up 30 to 40 point underdogs.
Yes.
You spoke to me and you said you had a specific job. Now this is a job and a story that nobody knows about. This would have just disappeared in North Catholic history if it wasn't for today and you and I having this conversation. So go ahead and enlighten everybody.
I think Jim kind of carried a little of it last night. He didn't know what my job was on that day. But let me tell you, let me go back a little bit, because one of the things that Jim said was Bernie was a St. Joan of Arc guy. And he coached at St. Joan of Arc. And obviously you didn't know that. In the early 80s, I actually lived in Harrogate. And I met a guy who was the girls CYO coach at St. Joan of Arc. And I started working with Walt. And I coached the girls team at St. Joan of Arc for 4 years. And John Tomaselli, who in 88 or 87 and 88 was the freshman coach at North, was also the boys coach at St. Joan of Arc. And John and I got along really, really well. Just so happened in 1988 that late 87 and 88, my company went bankrupt. So I was kind of out of work and I was bored and I was looking for something to do. And I called John and I called Rabbi and I said, I don't care. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I ended up working with John with the freshman team. And I have to tell you that by that point, I had moved from the basketball team at St. Joan of Arc to work with Tom McLaughlin with the boys team in St. Anne's. And so that freshman team, there was a bunch of kids from St. Anne's that were on that freshman team. And we had a really, really good team the year before. So those freshmen were talented. So it was easy for me to work with those kids because I'd been working with them for 2 years. But anyway, I started, and it was Rabbi, it was Brother Jim, it was John Tomaselli, and I would go to practice and do whatever they needed me to do. I would go to all the freshman games, most of the JV games. And one of the stories that I love is um, we were playing Archbishop Wood at Archbishop Wood one afternoon with the freshman team. John Tomaselli was Italian, and he was very Italian, and he was very hot blooded. And I got to tell you, the guy had a heart that was as big as the state of Pennsylvania, but he had a very short fuse, and he yelled a lot. And he never said anything inappropriate, or he never touched any of the kids, or he just was he was Raleigh Massimino. I mean, he just ran it, raved, and walked up and down the at the sidelines, and that was what he did. I knew him for years. I knew how he reacted. So after the game was over, one of the mothers from Archbishop Wood came up to me and said, "I have no idea how you coach with that guy. He's nuts." And first thing that popped in my head, I said to her, I said, "Oh, I don't coach with him. I'm just here to protect the kids." And it was ha ha ha. But no, I mean, none of that was true. John was phenomenal. So anyway, Jimmy told you the story last night about the final practice before the championship game. So we were in the office before that practice, and Rabbi had told them the day before that everything that you're doing tomorrow is going to be like it's a game day. So they had to dress, they had to go to the gym, or they had to go to the locker room, they had to go to the gym. So my job on that day, he wanted the gym doors locked. And locking the gym doors was no easy feat. So um, me and two other people, we had to stand outside the gym doors and make sure that nobody went in. So one of the guys was on the street side. I was at the top of the steps outside the doors, and that entire practice was closed to everybody except the people that were in there. And as you said to Jim yesterday, I watched the video of that afterwards, and uh, basically, Rabbi just got into their head, and he basically convinced them that we're going to win this game. And and it was the wonderful part about it was when you play a team like Roman, what they want to do is run up and down the floor, and they want to jam the basket. I mean, they there were guys on that team that if we put three of our guys on each other's shoulders, they still would have been bigger. We had 5 foot nothing guys, and Jimmy Schulteis was 6'2", and he was our center. And they had guys like Dallas Comagese. I think he was about 9 foot tall. And so Rabbi put in their head that if they play our game, they can't win. And that is exactly what happened. We made them play a half court game the entire game. If you look at the final score, I mean, they would score 130 and not think twice. I don't think they got out of 50s. So, he really just put that whole thing in their mind. Rabbi was an amazing coach, and he put all that into their mind and just made them believe that they were to the extent that he put tables out on the court, and they were climbing on the tables, cutting down the nets in the pit. So he went all out with that whole mindset game, and we ended up winning the Catholic championship. But we had no bad. And John, to be honest, having been with those kids for a year and a half, if we would have played Roman 20 times, we would have lost 19.
Yeah.
And they were in the right mindset from beginning to end. I mean, the Comey brothers could shoot the football or the basketball from anywhere. I mean, they had the most amazing jump shots in the world, and they could just shoot. And we were putting the ball inside to Schulteis, who was getting layups over these 9 foot guys, because they had no idea what to do when the game slowed down to a point that we were making 10 passes. And remember, there was no shot clock. So, we were passing the ball. They were dizzy.
Yeah.
And, that from not being in the years that I was there, that is absolutely an amazing memory.
It's an amazing backstory, Baron. Like I said, we have the interviews of the athletes who played the game, and then we have Bernie Haney, class of '74, who stepped in, doing
78. Don't make me older than I am.
I'm
John.
sorry, '78. You step in to come back to your school that you love so much to help out in sports, and here you are with just as great of a backstory and behind the scenes as to how Coach Rabbi put these gentlemen in the right frame of mind to beat the best team in the city. And it's an incredible story, Baron. This story is absolutely incredible.
It was more incredible living it. Like, it was, I have to tell you, the character, the overall character of every single one of the guys that were in that program were second to none. I mean, they were just absolutely, positively pure character guys. I mean, every one of them was. Jim Schulteis was big as hell, and for North standards, he was big as hell. And the kid was literally the salt of the earth. He would give you the shirt right off his back. And the Comeys were the same way. And Dave Master Pietro, who he was a baseball player, but he managed to find his niche in this team and was an absolute contributor all year long. And it was being in the right place at the right time. It was just such a phenomenal group of young men that every one of them they just exuded the Falcon spirit. And to be around them for that year and to be around that program for that year was an absolute honor for me.
Amazing story, dude. Well, just to top this off, Bern, you ready for a little North Catholic trivia?
Yeah, I've been listening to this for a couple days now, and I know that I'm not getting the easy version. So
no, because I know you're pretty knowledgeable. Well, I'm gonna hit you up with the first one. First one's a gimme. Yeah, take your swig, Bern. Okay, gear up. First one's an easy one. The direction of tension.
Oh my God, I give you this class. Please give me the strength to conduct myself during it, no matter most pleasing to you. St. Francis, pray for us.
All right. You ready for the tough one?
Go ahead.
All right. Where did it go? Okay, where did it go? All right.
Oh God, you're writing them down now, John?
No, and I'm not telling you where I'm getting. I'm not telling you where I'm getting my source, but it's very easy. All right, here it comes. The Falcon was a chosen symbol for North Catholic for 3 reasons. Can you name at least one?
I have no idea. I never heard this before.
Okay, yeah.
I'll
read it again.
I would say one of them had to be that they were fierce.
Okay, close. I'm going to read the question one more time for you, Bern. The Falcon was chosen as a symbol of North Catholic for 3 reasons. Can you at least name one?
So I'm assuming there's a hint in there somewhere, right? No, I can't. I never heard that before, but
all right.
That's a great question.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you the answer.
Oh, you are. I thought you were keeping
them
for the next idiot that would get it wrong.
Yep. So
go ahead.
The Falcon was chosen for 3 reasons. Number 1, it was the bird of prey.
Right.
Right. It says it's the bird of prey that never lets go. Kind of like Tenuai Nectar.
That's Tenuai. Okay.
Number 2, it's completely faithful to its trainer.
Okay.
And number 3, It is the fastest of God's creatures.
Now, I'll never forget that. I'll be dead for 15 years and I'll still know that answer.
So for all the guys out there, John Levy is picking these questions out of North Catholic's Wikipedia. So,
That's
gentlemen,
great.
if you're
That
getting
is
ready to come
great.
on my page, you're ready for some questions. I had some good ones. You mentioned something about 77. I was going to throw a 77 one in there for you, but so Bern, 2009. Again, you had a nephew that was final freshman, and we find out, whether it's through the news, through social media, we get that phone call that North Catholic's going to close. Obviously, you spent a lot of years at North Catholic coaching, teaching. What's the first thing that goes to your mind?
I was heartbroken. I mean, I think I was heartbroken more because I had to go through all of this stuff with Seamus. I mean, that kid, well, his father, you know how my brother is, and John is all North all the time. And from the time that the kid knew what was going on around him, he was wearing North stuff. And for him to be able to walk in the door on that first day and then realize at the end of the year he was done, that was really, really hard for me. And it took me probably a year or two after that to realize that it was over. And I worked with a guy years ago that his father went to St. Tommy Moore in South Philly, and I watched what they were. I mean, they walk around with shirts that say St. Tommy Moore forevermore, and those guys are St. Thomas forevermore, and those guys are now probably all dead. But they had this closeness that between, and I'll tell you, when North closed and Jerry Brandisi and those guys started the Northlands, I mean, it was seriously needed. There was, for whatever reason, it was a group that consisted of the younger guys and a mix of the older guys. And when they started doing the Wildwood, I was at the first Wildwood reunion, and what a great day. I mean, it was a phenomenal day. And I've been back since because I have a bunch of other stuff going on. But obviously, like everybody else that you've interviewed, I'm looking forward to this year because hopefully we'll be able to get back and I know it's going to be huge. I mean, we may have more people in Wildwood than Irish Weekend. I mean, so that would be crazy. But the spirit that we all have, I look today look at the number of North Catholic pages on Facebook. We have our class page, and ironically, we have 73 of our classmates who have died. And every time somebody passes, we post a note, we put them on a list. We really pay reverence to our brothers who have left us. We had a brother who left us in junior year, and he's on our list. And at our graduation, Father Toner gave his mother his diploma, and he was killed in a car accident. And he's on our list. And if you look around at the grads page and the orphans page, and we are so connected socially. And think about your friends, and like I still have very, very close friends that came from North. And if I wasn't in North, I never would have met them. And it's what we do. We're just a brotherhood that'll never go away.
I mean, speaking about, like you said, it's what we do. North Catholic closes its doors 2010, I guess was their final year.
Yep.
Again, you mentioned, Jerry Berdizzi, all them guys from the Northlands. Dude, now we're going on 11 years. We could have just folded up and dwindled off in the wind.
And
But here
I
you
have to
have,
tell you, without the Northlands, John,
it's
if
over.
we counted on, other organizations to do that, we wouldn't even be talking about Keenan's or Wildwood or, the Northlands have done a phenomenal job. And, what they give back to the community is amazing. And with all due respect, the Alumni Association does a lot of stuff. But the Northlands group, and at some point in time, the alumni and the Northlands are going to get together and just be, an absolutely magical group. I mean, at that point, there'll be nothing we can't do.
Yeah, you're right. I mentioned I'm going to get some signatures. I got that basketball shirt in there that I got from the thing.
I love that idea.
And so I already got some signatures. Well, get ready. So just for everybody out there, I got Barry Brodzinski, Jim Schulteis, and I believe Rabbi are going to probably be my first 3 signatures. This is going to be, again, I should have bought it out. It's going to be a shirt that's going to be signed by every baseball player, if I can, football player, basketball, it doesn't matter. Ernie Koshnick's going to be on there. As a matter of fact, Ernie Koshnick's going to be getting interviewed next Friday at 9 a.m. for everybody. So that should be interesting.
That'll be fun.
I just solidified that today. But what we're going to do is I'm going to get all the signatures that, going to have it framed up real nice, and we're going to sell chances, and all proceeds are going to go to the Northlands organization where they can designate how they want to divide that up. I think it's a great thing. And again, this is what we do. Burn Falcons.
And John, I would recommend that you've done really, really well at, covering the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And the 80s you haven't done much of, and the 90s. I know later on you're doing the 2000s. What I would do, though, is I would try to get as many of those decades on that jersey, so that every decade had their guy, and I know that Rabbi and Barry can help you with basketball, and Franny Doherty can probably help you with football and soccer, and and Richie Kelly, who was your first interview from my class. Richie's involved with the soccer guys, and we had phenomenal soccer players in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. We won more titles in soccer than we won in anything else.
Yeah.
And so the more decades that you can have represented on that, the more value it holds.
Duly noted.
I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
This was a ton of fun.
We're going through this pandemic, lights at the end of the tunnel. We haven't had a chance to go out and see each other, you and I especially. There was no summer reunions this year. What would you like to leave everybody, a message that everybody's going to be viewing this tonight? What would you like to say to everybody?
I think we already said it, John. I think that what we need to always remember is that we're a brotherhood and we'll always be a brotherhood. And I'm not going to do what Schulteis did and do the E naked demo, because that was off the hook, but that was phenomenal. And that, amazing. my friend, was Jim Schulteis. That's who that kid was. And that was off the hook. But just go back and watch the interviews that John did. And, I told John at the beginning, and Johnny, this, I told John at the beginning that you got to get your head out of 1991. You got to realize what it was like in 1946. Like in 1950, when you tell somebody you went to school at the Annex, well, in 1991 and 1974, the Annex was a new building. In 1946 and 1952 and 1960, the annex was St. Joachim's and St. Anne's. I mean, those freshman classes weren't even in the building because there were so many guys. And, so you get to learn about Nobby Walsh and Father Butler and Ernie. And, I love the irony of telling John early on in this process that, dude, when you're interviewing someone from 1952, they have no idea who Ernie Koshnick is.
Well, they should read the Wikipedia.
so you gotta if you're gonna do this, you gotta learn who was Ernie before Ernie. And if you watch these, we all learned about Nobby Walsh, and we all learned about Father Butler. Father Butler, ostensibly, from what I understand, was kind of like the fill-in between Nobby Walsh and Ernie. And I mean, Ernie was there I think Ernie was at North for 100 years. So, John, I really appreciate this. This was an absolute ball, and I'm glad that I can be a small part of remembering great times in my life that took place at Erie and Tarsdale. I mean, it was 1840 Tarsdale Avenue, right, John?
1842.
I'm 42.
Hey, here's another trivia question for you. Who did the Archdiocese buy the land for? Who they bought it from, and how much did they buy it for?
I think they bought it from the railroad.
Yes, they did. They bought it from the Pennsylvania Railroad Company.
I thought I remember hearing this story about them buying it from the Pennsylvania Railroad, and I think they bought it for pretty much nothing.
$150,000.
Yeah, for all that land, that was pretty much nothing.
And that was going to be another. Let's look. Here it is, gentlemen. Here goes all your trivia questions. Study up. maybe the guys will, maybe if somebody gets a good correct answer, we could, maybe give them a prize or some sort. But Bern, it was fun, dude. I know this was going to be a great interview with you. And, I miss not seeing you guys, you and your beautiful bride, and them beautiful Goldens that you have. But we'll get together, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And obviously, give Mandy a big hug and kiss from Don and I. And John, keep doing what you're doing, man, because I go forward to these every night. To sit in. And the unfortunate part of me looking forward to it every night is at some point during the night your phone's going to ring.
Well, I got it on vibrate, so I don't even know where the hell it's at right now, to be honest with you. It's somewhere. You heard some of my videos, my phone's going off. It's alerting me that I got a message from some alumni. I got an interview tonight, I believe, at 8:30. So my wife's like, so now you got 2 interviews a night. But
Tower, it is an absolute tribute of love that you're doing this, because these videos will last forever.
Ern, I think the guys too that are watching this, you know what? I really nothing to say because I just had a guy in my ear already talk about it. But truly, everybody has a story, dude. Everybody. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And a lot of guys will never tell that story, but everybody has a story. And if you're sitting at a bar with a McKinnon's in the summer, you'll hear it.
Yeah.
Now, will they get on a video and tell you? Probably not. But everybody has a story. And, just keep doing this. I mean, you have this. So I thought we were in big trouble when the first video I watched was Richie Kelly. And I love Richie. He's a great kid. But I thought, okay, here's where we're going. It's Richie Kelly. And Richie doesn't have a shy bone in his body. So I knew that this was no problem at all for Richie. But then as you went on, I mean, some of the guys that you interview from years, I mean, the guy whose wife was translating for him because he was pretty much deaf. And
Robert Mahan.
He was part of that. Yeah, he was part of that. He was excited by that interview. and he gave me some real insights about what the 50s were.
Yeah.
And here's, I'm gonna tell you my last North thing. You know the story. Most people don't. Unfortunately, my mother, my birth mother, died when I was 4, and my sister and I went to live with my maternal grandmother and my maternal aunt. And my father, I saw for 2 or 3 years, and then I never saw my father again. So I didn't know anything about my Haney side. And then one day, Don and I were actually in Texas, and I was on the North Catholic side on my phone, and I saw this guy, John Haney Sr. And I just sent him a note out of nowhere and said, we spell our name the same way. I know my father was one of about 16, and I know I have a huge Haney family, and I have no idea, who any of them are. And that night, I met my first cousin, who graduated from North 7 years before I was born.
That's amazing.
My father was my father was actually the baby of 15.
Holy God.
And my grandfather, God love him, on the day that my father was born, my grandfather Haney was late 60s. I mean, my father, on the day my father was born, he had half brothers that were like 45 years old. So my grandfather had 11 kids with his first wife, who died in childbirth with the 12th. He then went to Ireland and he found my grandmother, and he brought her back. She was real young, and he had 5 children with my grandmother. So a couple of them were, didn't make it, but they ended up being 15 kids. And my cousin John, who since then I've met his family, his wife, and I've opened a whole new world of Haneys that I've never known before, and I did it because of North.
Mm-hmm. That's a crazy story, dude.
I mean, it changed my entire life because of going to North. So there's another weird thing of how it all ties together. You never know.
Mm-hmm. That's a great story, Baron.
Yeah, it was. It's been phenomenal for me. I mean, I met a bunch of cousins I never knew I had, and John graduated from North in '52. Went he was from St. Ed's Parish, and John, God love him, he's 85 years old, and God bless him, but he's my first cousin because his father and my father were half brothers.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty weird, but it's worked out well, and I met a ton of new cousins that I never knew I had, and all because of North.
Wow.
So, John, I really appreciate this so much, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's a great project, and it'll last forever.
I appreciate it, Bert, and I appreciate the kind words, and we'll definitely get in touch.
Absolutely, anytime. See you, bud.
All right. Peace.